I recently decided to conduct some testing of 22 long rifle shot cartridges. I was able to locate Winchester and Federal loadings locally. Both of these loadings are very similar. They use an extra long brass crimped cartridge case, and they are both loaded with a small quantity of number 12 rat or bird shot. The loading from CCI is different because it uses a shot capsule. CCI rounds are also quite a bit more expensive and are sold in, I believe, boxes of 12 instead of 50 as these are sold. In order to give a fair test, I decided to use a variety of common rifle-barreled 22 firearms. There are, for means of note, smoothbore 22 firearms that are specifically for this type of ammunition, but I decided to test rifle-barreled guns. The first firearm at the bottom is a 4-inch barreled Yama Marshall revolver. The top one is a Ruger Mark II semi-automatic target pistol. The advantage to using a revolver is that it may be used as a repeater, and it will be just as reliable with the shot cartridges as it will be with any other type of ammunition, because of course it does not rely upon the performance of the ammunition to cycle. In a magazine-fed firearm, the cartridges must be loaded one at a time, because the shot cartridge does not have enough energy to cycle the semi-automatic mechanism. One of the other test firearms was a nylon 66, and it was reliable in loading from the magazine. However, it did experience some difficulties ejecting the cartridge case because these cartridges are quite long when they're fired, and they will stick into the lead of the rifling. Alright, let's have a look at some of the targets which I generated as a result of my shooting tests. The first target was fired with the Federal shot cartridge at a distance of 5 feet through the 4-inch barreled revolver. And we'll zoom in a bit closer here on our rat silhouette to let you have a look at the dispersal of the hits. And as you can see, there are quite a few hits in the body. 37 hits altogether. Each pellet strike has been enhanced with a marker just to let you see it a little easier, because being such small shot, they are difficult to see otherwise. So we'll zoom back out of that and give you a better idea of the dispersal. So even at a distance quite close, you're still looking at quite a large pattern, probably about 8 inches. Alright, so we've seen a target at 5 feet. We'll move back to a distance of 10 feet with the exact same combination: revolver, 4-inch barrel, and the Federal shot cartridge. And you can see here that the pattern has opened up substantially, and we've got a total of 13 hits in the body of our silhouette rat. See the hits there. That would most likely still be lethal on a rodent, so I think still within the effective range of these types of cartridges. You can see you do have a fairly good margin for error in your aiming point. You've got a pretty big pattern going on, so I think that would still be effective. And of course, the number of hits that I count on the body of these targets are influenced, of course, by my aim and where I manage to center the pattern. If you move this target around a bit more, you'll see the hits would have either increased or decreased. So I just counted the holes for the sake of argument, I guess. All right, now we're going to move on to the same revolver. However, we're shooting the Winchester shot cartridges this time. So this one's at a distance of 5 feet, going back to the close range. And you can see that there's a hell of a mess of them in the rat's body there. I believe I counted 49 hits. So that would do a real number on a rodent. So obviously well within the effective range of one of these rounds. And a pretty tight pattern for all. You're going to have to actually aim at the rat. You can't just assume you're going to hit him. So from 10 feet, or sorry, from 5 feet, we'll move out to the pattern from 10 feet. And As you can see, once again, the pattern has grown quite a bit, but we still have how many? 14 hits in the body of the rat. So I think that would be lethal as well on a rodent. If you're trying to control vermin in a barn or similar enclosure. And from 10 feet with the Winchester load, we'll go back to 15. And this is when things get really dispersed. And in fact, there's probably some pellets which aren't even on my test paper here. And you basically got a pattern which is, you know, probably close to 18 inches wide at only 15 feet. So despite that being 15 feet, we still managed to score a total of 14 hits on the rat's body. So that's still pretty respectable. I think it would probably kill a rodent. Of course, you're losing energy at that distance with these small pellets, so even though you've got the hits, these pellets do slow down quite rapidly. I don't think anything further than 15 feet would be terribly useful. Okay, now let's switch it up again. And this time, we're going to go to another handgun. And this is with a Ruger Mark II semi-automatic pistol. And this pattern was with the Winchester at a distance of 5 feet. And as you can see, pretty tight pattern. Lots of hits on the rat. We've got a total of 49 hits at that distance. Obviously very lethal to a rodent at that distance. So as expected, that would be quite effective. And we'll go back from the 5-foot mark to 10 feet with the same Winchester load, same Ruger Mark II pistol. Once again, the pattern has opened up considerably, but we still have a good lethal hit on the body of our rodent here. I think that's a total of 18 hits that I counted. I think that would continue to do the job. From 10 feet, we go back to 15 once again with the same Ruger, same Winchester load. In this case, we have a total of only 8 hits. That might do the job. It's not that many hits at 15 feet. Once again, the pellet energy is bound to be dropping off, so probably the outside edge of effectiveness for this particular load. And as you can see, the pellet strikes range from here. Probably some of them are off the bottom of the paper, so it's a pretty big pattern, probably about 20 inches wide, and it doesn't seem to be quite as tall, but it's still a pretty big pattern. One advantage of this is you could probably hit the rat somewhat accidentally with that big pattern, but there's a lot of holes in the pattern as well. If you notice down here, there's a great big hole. The whole rat could easily be in that hole, and you could only hit him with, you know, one pellet in the tail or something. So anyway, you're getting at the outside range of the effectiveness once again. Now we'll move on to some of the test targets that were shot with rifles. In this case, we've got the Winchester shot load fired out of a Remington nylon 66, and this was at a distance of 5 feet, and we've got a really nice tight pattern here. Definitely a dead rodent. I believe that's a total of 45 hits on the rat, so obviously very effective. Let's move on to the same combination of the nylon 66 and the Winchester load. We're going back to 10 feet in this case. We've got 37 hits on the body of the rat in this case, so very definitely a dead rat. And as you can see, the pattern's opening up a bit, but it's still pretty good. It's got a very solid center, so that would obviously do the job quite well. From 10 feet, we move back to 15, and at 15 feet, we have a total of 23 hits on the body of the rat. Same nylon 66, same Winchester ammunition. And this is still a array of hits on the rat. However, there are a couple of holes in the pattern. You could quite easily be on the light side of the hits and let the rat get away on you there. So once again, I think that's on the outside edge of usefulness. Next, we've got couple of targets fired with the Federal shot shells out of a rifle. In this case, it's a Stevens 22 semi-auto rifle, an older Stevens rifle, and we've got quite a deadly cluster of hits on the rat here, approximately 70 hits or so. Hard to say because there's some clusters where several pellets hit together. It's kind of hard to say just how many of those are, but I'm going to call it 70 for the sake of argument. You can see that's quite a mess. Backing up, you can see that it holds once again a pretty tight pattern. Obviously that would be pretty deadly. The same Stevens 84C semi-auto rifle with the Federal shot shell, 10 feet. You can see the pattern once again opening up a bit. We've got a total of 13 hits in the body, and once again should be a good effective range. A little different target when we get back to the 15 feet here. I decided to use a little taller target just to capture all the pellets. So we're moving away from the paper for this next target, and we're onto some cardboard here just to get a big enough piece of target surface to capture the hits. And as you can see, we've got hits from here all the way down to here, so it's quite a wide dispersal of hits. Despite that big dispersal though, we've still got a total of, let's see, 25 strikes. So that's pretty good for back that far with the Stevens. And I guess what all this shows is that you have to pretty much test your own combination of 22 firearm and the 22 shot shell that you choose, because these things don't seem to behave in a predictable fashion. I think that's the one thing I learned from all this testing, other than the fact that they are indeed very short range. A few more targets with the Stevens. This is with the Winchester shot shell, and quite a tight pattern once again, as is expected with the short distances. We've got 45 hits on our rat at that short distance. Nice tight pattern, fairly rounded shape. Go back a little further with the Stevens rifle again, with the Winchester shot shell, and we're back to 10 feet. We've got 47 hits, and as expected, the target's well hit. Not too big of a pattern, be quite effective. And our very final target that I have to show you is with the Winchester shot shell in the Stevens at 15 feet. And once again, it's opened up quite a bit, but would still be effective with a total of 20 hits.